Hello, audience. My name is Andrew or Alamar, and today we have our symposium called Experience Healing Like Never Before Through the Thinning Veil. Discover your psychic power and reconnect with lost loved ones. And this summit is bringing together amazing and wonderful speakers like WytchWhisper to bring you like usher in the Halloween feeling and to kind of help you connect with not only with your psychic abilities, but with energies and loved ones across the veil. So, without further ado, WytchWhisper, would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
All right. My name's Witch Whisper. Sometimes I'm known as Witch Whisper Sadovsky. That's in Second Life. I do a lot of singing and clothing design in there.
Mm,
Um, what exactly do I do? Well, I'm Wiccan.
mhm,
I've had a coven in the past.
mm,
I let's see. I like to during during the Halloween and stuff, I like to talk to dead people
mhm.
because I miss them and it's a lot easier to get through on the long distance calls
Yes.
during during
Mhm,
uh, the thinning of the veil.
mhm,
So yeah, I definitely do a ritual on Halloween
mhm.
and connect with those that I miss and stuff. And,
I love that. Okay. Thank you for sharing. I want to ask you, like, what does it mean to be Wiccan? And what exactly is a Wiccan?
well, I discovered Wicca.
Mhm,
Actually, when I was looking, okay, I was always a weird child.
mhm.
I would call the winds and I would I would see fairies and
Mm,
I things like that. And so I knew I was different.
mhm,
And when I was 16, I was looking for a book on white witchcraft.
mhm.
Because back then I believed that there was white and black witchcraft.
Yeah,
Now I know.
all the colors
Now
exist.
I That's right. All magic is the same. It's just the intender's use of it that
Hmm.
determines what. Yeah. So I went to Vancouver and I to visit my uncle. And while I was there, I went to the library and I literally found a book
Hmm.
called White Witchcraft.
Hmm.
And so I picked that up and I picked up a Raymond Buckland candle magic book as well. And or no, and then the complete guide to witchcraft is
Hmm.
Raymond Buckland's. Yeah, I picked that up too. And I kind of I've always been a solitary, so I self-taught myself for
Hmm.
like through books and videos and everything like that.
Hmm.
From the time I was 16 up until when I went to university, I had my own coven
Hmm.
and
Ooh.
I was the high priestess, which was
Ooh.
awesome. Yeah, it was good. Uh, I miss it actually. I miss the people that were in my
Hmm.
coven.
Yeah.
Because it was my best girlfriend
Hmm.
and I had two gay gentlemen that were
Hmm.
part of the coven as well, and they were just awesome people.
I love it.
And yeah, I was walking one night and I felt like there was something I needed to find.
Hmm.
And when I saw some branches on the ground,
Hmm.
I picked up this really long staff.
Ooh.
Like it wasn't made into a staff, but it was this long piece of wood that looked like it could be a staff.
Hmm.
And so I grabbed it and because it was discarded anyway. Somebody had cut down a bunch of branches and stuff.
Hmm. That sounds
So,
interesting.
and I took it home because it was meant for me.
Mhm.
And not that I suggest people go around stealing plants and stuff. No garden raiding just because you're Wiccan.
Mhm.
Um, no, but seriously,
Mhm.
I did. I went to the dollar store and I grabbed a bunch of flowers and vines
Mhm.
and things like that. And I pretty much made it into this really funky looking staff. It
Mhm.
had a flower bouquet at the top and it was, but when I was high priestess, that was my thing. I had my staff and and we'd do the rituals and it was all great. Totally freaked out my boyfriend at the time though because I had fairies visiting
Mhm.
me occasionally and they would scare him. Yeah, yeah. Like we'd be laying on the bed and one would appear and it would be glowing and getting closer and he was like, "Oh my God, stop it. Get away." Like yeah, he was this nice Christian gentleman.
Mhm.
He just he just didn't want to
Mhm.
encounter anything otherworldly. So
Mhm. That's really
so
interesting.
well, most of the time when me and the coven worked together, we just worked in the bedroom and he played on the computer outside.
So the bedroom became almost like a portal for other world entities to enter easily.
Yeah. Yeah,
That makes
it's it.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
because well, that's we were on our bed when the fairy appeared and he freaked out.
Mhm. I love it. So I want to ask you, how does the Wiccan tradition view the thinning of the veil between worlds, especially during Samhain?
Well, traditionally,
Mhm.
um, in the Celts
Mhm.
uh, viewed it as a very sacred holiday, and they would go actually trick or treating and Halloween and everything would kind of came about from them because they would go door to door and visit people and make sure everybody was okay and they would share treats and they would share like drink and so it was celebratory but
Mhm.
um yeah so it almost goes back to like the well Wicca is very old
Mhm.
just like paganism is very old.
Mhm.
um the modern Wicca though is relatively new.
Mhm.
I think it was Gerald Gardner that brought it about. He wrote the Wiccan Bible.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just it's a good time to get in contact with your dead relatives because the veil is so thin.
Yeah.
I usually um I always do tarot and divination on Samhain because
Mhm.
with the veil being so thin, I tend to get more accurate readings,
Mm.
which is really good. And you can do a reading of your whole year, which is really awesome as well.
Mhm. I love that.
And yeah, and let's see what else. I usually use a mirror and a candle
Mhm.
to talk to my dead people.
Okay.
And that can get quite intense because you miss them and then they appear in the mirror and it's like I miss you. How are things over there? They must be great. I see you look really awesome and
Mhm.
yeah, so
Okay. That is very interesting. It's interesting that you use a mirror and candle work during Halloween, during Samhain to contact your ancestors. So I want to ask you about protections. Like when it comes to doing this, how important is it to have protections around you
oh,
and
it's very
intention?
yes, it's very important to have protection and intention.
Yeah.
You don't want to attract the negative spirits that
Yeah.
tend to roam around. So,
Mhm.
yeah, you draw the circle, you have a protective circle around you in the mirror, of course, and you reach out to the people you love and you don't try to remember the bad things about them. You try to remember the good
Mhm.
that they did in your life and
Yeah.
things like that. So you're not attracting the wrong entity
Mhm.
because you don't want to attract the more mischievous spirits and things like that.
Okay. I think that's very, very important to know, especially for people who are like starting out. I think mirror work and candle work can be very, very intense when it comes to any practice because it's the very, I want to say the very crux of having a connection with something beyond the veil. And you have to have for those protections and the correct intentions, or you'll attract something scary or dangerous. So I
Right.
wanted to ask that so that I could get an understanding for people who are like wanting to practice this on Halloween, who are new at this, because it's not safe to just do it all the time. You have to have intention and you have to protect yourself. So yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And if you're, well, I was going to say, if you're an ocean, then you really have to worry about demons because
So
you're
what?
summoning an ocean. They tend to contact angels all the time. And but unfortunately, they can inadvertently contact demons because
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're on the same wavelength. Like
Mm-hmm.
not entirely on the same wavelength, but they all work for the same people.
Okay. That's really interesting. So how many distinctions exist within being a Wiccan? Like what is
Well,
there?
an ocean is not Wiccan. It's
Okay.
it's a it's a religion of itself. I just know people that were in it. That's why I know about it. But
Okay.
um Wicca itself has so many different denominations within it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the Gardnerian people, there's I'm trying to remember if like what Aleister Crowley had Wiccans, but then he also branched into uh demons. So
The
we'll just
Goetia.
not we'll just not talk about him.
I think he's in, I think it's important that you brought him up, and I think it is important to talk about him just because I know he's one of the founding fathers of the Goetia, if I'm not mistaken, and demonology and
Yeah,
witchcraft.
yeah, he is pretty much.
And like the Cabal, like Kabbalistic witchcraft.
Well,
Um,
he used to have seances in hotel rooms with his people.
mhm.
And actually he made the Thoth tarot deck.
Ooh,
Not and he founded like the Thoth uh religion. Like
really?
yeah, he actually
Oh,
had like a school and a group of students and
hmm
all that stuff that he was teaching
hmm
his. I know this from uh, a course that I took up in university
hmm
because we studied like the history of tarot and how
hmm
it all came to be, and we also touched on Aleister Crowley and various other big names.
hmm
But yeah.
I love that. That's really, really interesting. And it's awesome that you've studied it and have expert knowledge in it, even if it's in the smallest amount. But thank you for sharing. Okay,
You're welcome.
so I want
Um,
to ask you, oops, sorry, go ahead.
I made a movie while I was in that class, actually. I interviewed a bunch of Wiccans,
Hmm
and if I ever find the movie, I should really put it on YouTube
Yeah.
because it was a really good I interviewed lots of high priestesses and things like that and asked them important questions.
hmm I love that. What does it take to become a high priestess in the Wiccan religion?
Well, it takes intent, it takes responsibility. Um, because not only do you take care of your coven, but you you are responsible for hand fasting people
Mhm.
and um, you change lives when you have that role. So you have to kind of take it seriously. You
Yeah.
can't just you can't just be like, yay, partay. I'm in charge.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's and you have to have knowledge of the rituals and
Mhm.
uh the things that people want to do. Sometimes people within the coven will come up to you and be like, I would like to do a ritual on this full moon about this topic, sort of thing. And you give everybody a fair chance to
Mhm.
live out what they want to do with the
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very communal.
Yeah. And I love that because I think a lot of us are craving community, and I think it's a really good thing to practice and be welcomed into, especially practicing something like this, where a community is required to create powerful transformations, not only in yourselves, but others. But I
Right.
think as like animals, human animals, I think we're pack oriented. So I think it's really, really good to offer kind of like a coven, like a pack mentality to things, and start and conduct rituals where all of you can convene to help facilitate massive transformation in whoever is wanting that ritual done. So I think that's really, really awesome.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree too. And Wicca, you have to remember Wicca is a more modern religion. Like
Hmm.
sometimes it gets confused with people that are practicing supposed witchcraft,
Yeah.
but it's like satanic
Hmm.
and stuff. And
Yeah.
Wiccans don't believe in Satan.
Hmm.
We don't we don't do that.
Hmm.
We have the god and the goddess. The universe is essentially the god and the goddess
Hmm.
combined, and we do our rituals. When I discuss what we do for spell work with other religions, I say it's a lot like prayer.
Hmm.
Um, because you set your intention, you send it out to the entities,
Hmm.
entity,
Hmm.
universe, God, whoever, and uh, then hopefully, like it's dealt with and it gets sent to you in the form that you're supposed to have it, sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
And the other thing is oh no, I just lost my brain. It slid out my ear. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Stick it back here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think it's interesting how people make this connection between Satanism and paganism. Um, it's weird because they're distinctly different, but I think there's also the stigma around paganism where people believe it's like unnatural. But in actuality, it's just like the natural uplifting of the planet and its resources for the most part.
What's yeah, it's really old. Like
Yeah,
paganism goes back to caveman time,
yeah,
Like you see wall paintings of them doing rituals and stuff,
yeah.
and it's totally part of our history.
Hmm. And I think Satanism is relatively new. I'm not sure if that's honest, but I think there's always been kind of a history of humans worshiping evil and worshiping good. And I think when it comes to paganism, paganism is more so linked to nature and the
It
worshiping of nature and the magic that's created within nature, like the real magic, like through the wind and the seasons and all that stuff. It's more so a natural thing.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I
Mhm.
would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very earth-based and uh because we communicate with a lot of earth spirits and uh, and well, my Wicca, actually the cool thing about Wicca is it can take on, like you can start in a religion like Wicca
Hmm.
and then branch into shamanism
Mm,
and
yeah.
other things like that that you can add to uh your utility belt or whatever.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense because shamanism is the same as kind of paganism, but more so based in native culture when you have a deep connection with the earth and the ancestors. And you do rituals around communing with them and using their energy to manifest or create whatever. Um, so yeah, it almost looks like it's almost kind of the same, very, very similar. I can't say the same because that might offend people, but I think it's very, very similar in the way of like connecting with nature and its energy and ancestors. Excuse me.
Well, how I found it was I was doing a Celtic based Wicca,
Hmm.
uh, and I discovered Celtic based shamanism
Hmm.
in like some books on it, and I read those books, and then I branched into Native American shamanism as well, just out of curiosity. And yeah, there's so many similarities. Well, Wiccans, a lot of Wiccans, especially Scott Cunningham,
Yeah.
believe that all roads lead to the same mountain,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter what you're dabbling in. It
Hmm.
seems like we're all going the same way, except for people that are delving into evil stuff, but
Hmm.
that's a different road.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have, I think it's your intent. Like if you have good intent,
Yeah.
then usually you're going the right way.
Hmm. Exactly. I think intent is incredibly important, especially when you're practicing anything that has to do with connecting to any sort of source energy and or nature. Anything that connects to a very powerful source of energy, you have to have good intentions because you have the potential to attract something very scary or dangerous.
Right. Right.
So yeah, intention is damn important.
Yeah. Well, I
I
lived
want.
in a, oh,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I lived in a house once that had an evil spirit in it.
Uh,
And that was around the same time I started Wicca.
mm-hmm,
And it used to scare my sleepover guests, like
mm-hmm.
other girls that would come to my house, because it would sit in this teddy bear and growl at them all night.
What the hell?
Yeah, it was. And then, of course, I didn't help because I would be half asleep and be like, watch out for the bear and roll over. And they're just like, oh my God. And then I woke up and they'd be all freaked out and I'm never staying here again, sort of. I
That is
felt
absolutely
bad.
hilarious. I love that.
It,
It's
yeah,
scary, but it's funny.
it is. Well, I mean, it couldn't hurt them. I mean, well, it could hurt them to some degree. It tried to strangle my boyfriend uh when when he stayed over.
Mhm.
But but yeah, that was interesting. But yeah,
That is hilarious. I love that. Wake up getting
yeah.
strangled by a bear. I love that. That would send me up the wall. I don't even know if I could be scared at that point. I think I'd laugh myself into peeing all over the bed because that is hilarious.
Well, I know, and when it's not happening to you, it's hard not to giggle,
Mhm.
like
It was probably the scariest experience of his life to wake up being strangled by an entity trapped in an animal.
yeah, he
True.
was really freaked out by it.
Mhm.
Uh, that's why he didn't like the little fairies showing up either, because
Mhm.
after that experience, he just, no way.
I
I've had
love that.
enough. Yeah, so people that get involved with me romantically in the past really had to deal with entities and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to ask you next, for those who are new to ancestral work, what are some simple yet powerful rituals they can practice that you recommend opening up the lines of communication?
Oh, well, I usually do, uh, I myself usually do a meditation
Hmm.
that takes me to a room with a projector
Okay.
and I see images of the past, of my ancestors' past.
Hmm.
There's ancestors that are standing behind me
Hmm.
that I talk to.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's the standard ancestral, uh, down the line
Hmm.
sort of vision.
Yeah.
And you, when you're doing your healing or when you're doing your magic or when you're doing, you send that energy down the line
Hmm.
and to try to help and heal them and and in turn that heals you or
Hmm.
helps you out too. So it's definitely a good thing. And you get to talk to them if they're in the room with you too.
Hmm.
So
Okay. So I want to ask you next, how do you know when you're contacting a spirit or a being? Like, what are the signs that they're near you?
they always whisper in my ear.
Hmm.
Like it happened in in a non-spiritual setting to me. I walked in to my grandparents' house and I heard my dead uncle say, "Oh, thank God you're here,"
Oh, wow.
in my ear. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, haven't heard that voice in a while. So I was like, wow, okay. All
Mhm.
right, yeah, it's good. I'm here. So when you experience that in everyday life and you're not doing any ritual or anything, and then when you experience it in a ritual or a meditation situation,
Mhm.
you know when it's real because it feels the same.
Mhm.
Like it feels like somebody's just like their face is right here and they're just
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So at least that's how I judge it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So it almost sounds like your clairaudience is like really powerful.
It it is pretty powerful, yeah.
Okay. And clairaudience is just like being able to hear spirits, like hear clear communication between spirits. For people who don't know.
Yeah. I never used to know what it is. I just knew that they would talk to me,
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, so
that's awesome. Okay, so I want to ask you, as an energy healer, how do you guide individuals to heal ancestral wounds passed down to the generations, especially when the veil is thinnest?
well, I learned
Mhm.
from Shantana that the purple flame is very powerful.
Yeah.
So I would definitely utilize that
Hmm.
running down the chain of the ancestors to heal them.
Hmm.
And um, I myself would send love and um, other healing energies that I felt they required,
Hmm.
like things I'd learned in my healing class from Adrienne,
Hmm.
things like that. I didn't do a lot of ancestral work till just like in regards to healing them.
Hmm.
I would talk to them all the time,
Yeah.
but I never started healing them until I took a healer's course.
Okay. That's
So,
important to know. I think, especially now, while the veil is thinnest, I think, especially for those who don't have a lot of family or who can't really speak to our families, it's important to do this work so that you can call on those ancestors and have them answer questions you might not get answers to in your life currently, or through anyone who's alive or not alive. What I mean by that is, like, I think sometimes people don't have good relationships with their family, so they can't ask them serious questions and get a
right.
good answer. Or sometimes people might not have family who's alive still to ask these questions. And now when the veil is thinnest, they can connect with them and ask the questions and get their answers that they need. Um, so I like that it the veil is thinnest at this time so that people who want to connect with it can.
Right.
And also they can learn how to. So in this, while this is live and while we're doing this and while people are watching and enjoying it, they can learn how to strengthen their connections while the veils are thinnest to call onto those ancestors and get whatever answers they want. Um, so yeah, I kind of ranted a little bit, but I think this is a really great time to understand how to connect with your ancestors, with their ancestors, so that they can have deeper connections with their ancestors.
Right. And it's also a good time for past life uh as well, like connecting with people from your past lives or even connecting with your past life self, you
Hmm.
know.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, it's
And,
it's because the veil is so thin. It's
mhm.
just good opportunity.
Awesome. So is the method the same when you connect with your higher self and when you connect with your ancestors? Is it the same?
Um, well, my higher self is weird because I'm weird. No, but she floats above me usually, like kind of like an angel. You would imagine an angel floating above you, and so she does still whisper in my ear.
Mhm.
Um, but she has to bend down to do it. It's not like she's just like behind me going, "Hey, blah blah blah," you know. But yeah, that's how I get information. Or actually if when I commune with the Lord and Lady or the
Mhm.
universe,
Mhm.
I actually hear the voice in my head, like kind of like telepathy.
Mm.
Because I've experienced real life telepathy before. Like I've been waiting in line at a theater
Mhm.
behind somebody that I was friends with,
Mhm.
and I thought I was thinking things in my head about them,
Mhm.
and they turned around and they started answering my questions.
That's wild. I love that.
And I was like, oh, I'm like, I did not say that out loud.
Mhm.
And they just looked at me like, you didn't? Sorry.
So you had your
Yeah.
Professor X moment.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It was great. But yeah, so and I do still experience telepathy moments to this day with people. So
I love that.
my current boyfriend included.
Hmm.
So
I love it. Okay, so I want to ask you, what role do psychic abilities play in strengthening your connection to your ancestors?
um well, if your ancestors had abilities as well,
Hmm.
which most of them do, they seem to get passed on.
Hmm.
I I feel,
Yeah.
and kind of like our DNA
Yep.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so they do play an important part.
Hmm.
And it's good to know what you do because uh because it does help you connect with those ancestors who are stronger in those gifts
Hmm.
that may be able to help you get stronger in your gifts,
Hmm.
which is always good.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. Okay. So I want to ask you next, how can someone kind of cultivate their psychic powers to receive clear messages within their lineage or from their lineage? Yeah.
well, they should whenever they go in and talk to their ancestors,
Hmm.
when they come out or even during, they should be writing things down
Okay.
so that they're not uh forgetting the information because it's so easy to come out of a session and be like, what was that?
Hmm.
What just
Yeah.
happened? Yeah. No, but so it's good to it's kind of like when you have a dream, because dreams are very good for contacting dead people and ancestors as well, and especially around Halloween.
Yeah.
So if you wake up from some wacky dream and it's giving you a message, you got to write it down right away so that
Mm.
later you can go over what you wrote down and analyze it.
Hmm. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really important. I think during this time, all of our abilities will be amplified, especially if you're a psychic or reader, or healer, or whatever. Your ability is going to be definitely amplified because the veil is so thin and people want to come through to be heard.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that as well. I wonder who's going to come in to have things to say. I wonder who's going to, like, what psychics, what channelers are going to channel in what spirits. If Michael Jackson or something is going to come through and want to be heard or whatever, Whitney Houston or something, or whatever. Like, I know that it's going to come to this point where all of these psychics are going to come through saying that people are coming through and being channeled through them. So I wonder who, I wonder when, and I wonder what they're going to say.
Yeah, exactly. When you have to realize somebody told me once in my life that energy never dies, it just transmutes.
Yep.
So when a soul passes over, it's just that energy moves on to a happier place, hopefully.
Hmm.
And, so it's just like it's so when the veil is thin, it's like you can touch it.
Yeah.
It's so easier to get in contact with.
I love that. Okay, so I want to kind of go back into being a Wiccan, and I want to ask you about the tools and elements from nature that you would recommend for someone wanting to deepen their connection with their ancestors during the thinning of the veil.
Okay. Um, well, if they get indications as to the type of work
Hmm.
that their ancestors did, or if they know themselves that they're really strong in certain areas psychically,
Hmm.
they can research and draw more information from what they find out. And
Hmm.
then when they communicate with their ancestor, they can ask questions and get more information and like again, make sure they write it down when they come out so they don't forget it. But um yeah, it's just that's what I would do.
Okay,
But
awesome.
you don't have to do what I would do. That's just
Mhm.
what I do.
Yeah, I think people would want to hear that, would want to know how you do it so that it can be easier for them to maybe follow the same path and do it too. I'm asking more so for people who are like just starting out, who are just beginning to understand that this is what they want to do, and don't necessarily know where to start.
Right.
That's more so why I'm asking that question is because sometimes people just don't know where to start and they see this thing, they hear about this thing, and they want to be involved in it. They hear about a religious practice like voodoo or hoodoo or paganism or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and they just don't know where to start. They buy all the books or they don't buy all the books and they do all the research on the computers and they follow all these people who practice this thing, but they still just don't know what to do to start. So that's more so why I answered it or asked it is because for those people who don't know.
Right. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to ask you about reconnecting with lost loved ones. How do you help them release the grief? Um,
I hug them.
that's
I
awesome.
do. No, seriously. No, I give them lots of love and I do what I do with my real life friends.
Hmm.
Like I try to tell them it's okay.
Hmm.
It's gonna be better now, blah blah blah. Life is going to improve. You can if you forgive, then you release a lot of stuff that's holding you back. you
Yeah,
know. So I do that. I tell the ancestors very similar things that you would tell your best friends, you know.
that makes sense because I was more so asking about like with the or find peace to their ancestral connections when it comes to grief. Because I think a lot of the times when the veil is thinning, and people who have recently lost someone from the beginning of the year all the way up until Halloween, how do you help them deal with it?
Well, it won't be easy because um, when the spirits pass over into the other side, they're actually usually quite happy because they're getting to see everybody they haven't seen for like ever, you know, and it's only us that are left behind that feel abandoned and get really upset and sad and everything else. And
Mhm.
when they go to the other side, they know they'll see us again,
Yeah.
you know, so to them, it's just like a big vacation.
Mhm.
To us, it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, you
Mhm.
know, like like we freak out
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But if we talk to them,
Mhm.
hopefully they will remind you that it's only a temporary thing. You are going to see them again. Um, you will be in touch with them again.
Mhm.
You know, that's the one thing that has kept me sane from losing my grandmother because we were so close.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and she reminds me of that when I talk to her.
Mhm. Have you gotten to
So,
connect with her so far?
well, she's one of my guides,
Okay.
actually.
I
So
love
I
it.
talk to her all the time.
Mhm.
She got assigned as one of my guides not very long after she died. She's like, I'm gonna be one of your guides. I'm like, cool. Yeah, I was pretty excited about that. So,
Mhm. I love it. Okay. So last question I want to ask you is how can those who have psychic inclinations, healing inclinations, or Wiccan inclinations connect best with their guides,
well, they should,
especially during as the veil is thinning. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah, I think if they want to do it safely, again, they should draw their protection circles. They should take energy from the universe and expand it like a bubble inside the circle
Mhm.
and like as added protection. Because if it's a mirror-like surface, it reflects anything that you don't want in there.
Yeah.
Um, and you would reach out to your loved ones,
Mhm.
like with your intentions, people you really miss and want to see, and you welcome them within the circle of light, and
Mhm.
so that you can commune with them and
Mhm.
talk to them, and hopefully they'll whisper in your ear or something.
I love that. All righty, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now I want to ask you, if people would like to find you, how can they do so?
Well, I have a website. It's called uh it's https
Mhm.
dot dot you know the colon and then slash slash all about witchwhisper
Mhm.
dot ca.
Okay, and I'll have it linked below so they can just like click it and go right to it. My next question is, do you have a free gift and or a offer to offer the audience today?
I have a free gift.
Okay.
Um, it's a song that I wrote.
Hmm.
It's a song that I wrote about psychics and energy healers,
Mhm.
and they can download it on my website.
Mhm.
Um, when they go to my website, they will also run into my $97 offers.
Okay.
that I have available right now as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a two-in-one thing. If they follow the link, they will get there, you know.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for being on the summit today. It was really, really wonderful to have you and hear your perspective as to what it looks like and feels like to be a Wiccan, and to have psychic abilities as the veil is thinning. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.